General Science ASVAB exam questions. Which is not an example of how to charge an object? A. Transferring electrons. B. Induction. C. Polarization. D. Refraction. E. Friction. D. Refraction involves the bending of light through different mediums and does not affect the charge of an object. Electrons can be transferred from one object to another, giving an object a negative charge, so choice A is incorrect. Induction, choice B, involves the redistribution of charge by bringing a charged object close to two stationary objects. If the charged object is negatively charged, the electrons of the stationary objects will be repelled away and one of the stationary objects will take on a positive charge while the other one will become negatively charged. Polarization, choice C, occurs when electrons in an object are reconfigured temporarily. Friction, choice E, is a common way that objects are charged. The example of rubbing the socked feet along the carpet demonstrates how friction causes the transfer of electrons, and thus charge, from one object to another. The density of a substance is A. The relationship of its mass to a unit of volume. B. The relationship of its volume to its chemical state. C. The relationship of its weight to its volume. D. The relationship of its inertia to its volume. A. The relationship of its mass to a unit of volume. In which part of the atom is 99% of its mass found? A. Orbitals. B. Nucleus. C. Protons. D. Neutrons. E. Electrons. B. The nucleus contains the protons and neutrons of the atom. Together, they make up 99% of the atom's mass. Electrons, choice E, are found in the orbitals, choice A, surrounding the nucleus and do not have as much mass as the protons or neutrons. Protons and neutrons, choices C and D, have similar masses, but neither makes up 99% of the atom's mass alone. Which of the following is one main type of transfer that occurs in redox reactions? A. Transfer of carbon. B. Transfer of hydrogen. C. Transfer of nitrogen. D. Transfer of sulfur. E. Transfer of helium. B. Redox reactions are chemical reactions that involve one species of the reactants being oxidized and another species of the reactants being reduced. The transferring of hydrogen between reactants is one type of redox reaction. Another type involves the transferring of oxygen between reactants, and the third type involves the transferring of electrons between the reactants. Carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, and helium, choices A, C, D, and E do not drive redox reactions. Sulfur is mined chiefly for the production of A. Sulfa drugs. B. Sulfanilamide. C. Sulfuric acid. D. Superphosphates. C. Sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is one of the most important acids used by industry. Ecology can best be described as the study of A. Different methods of fighting pollution. B. The rate of land erosion. C. Changes in plants. D. The relationship between the environment and living things. D. The relationship between the environment and living things. Which one is most different from the other three? A. Pluto. B. Moon. C. Neptune. D. Uranus. B. Moon. The moon is a satellite of a planet, Earth. The others are all planets. Pluto was the former moon of Neptune that had somehow escaped its orbit. The asteroid belt is A. Just beyond the orbit of Neptune. B. Between Earth and Mars. C. Between Mars and Jupiter. D. Between Jupiter and Saturn. C. Between Mars and Jupiter. In chemical reactions, water forms compounds that are classified as A. Bases only. B. Acids only. C. Bases and acids. D. Baseless acids. C. Bases and acids. Humidity refers to ________ A. The amount of moisture is in the air. B. The distance to the nearest body of water. C. The temperature of the air at a standstill. D. The density of the air at the point of measurement. A. The amount of moisture is in the air. Biology is the study of A. Plants. B. Animals. C. Living things. D. Minerals. C. Living things. Botany is the scientific study of A. Animals. B. Plants. C. Botulism. D. Matter. B. Plants. The change from daylight to darkness is caused by the A. Inclination of the Earth's axis. B. Force of gravitation. C. Rotation of the Earth. D. Revolution of the Earth. C. Rotation of the Earth. The rotation of the Earth on its axis exposes different parts of the Earth to the sun's rays for different parts of each day. The three major types of rocks are sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous. How much voltage is needed to produce a current of 0.5 ampere in a circuit that has a resistance of 24 ohms? A. 6 volts, B. 12 volts, C. 24 volts, D. 36 volts. B. 12 volts. According to Ohm's law, the voltage needed to produce a current is equal to the current times the resistance that it meets. V equals Cx R, 24 ohms, a measure of resistance, x 0.5 ampere, a measure of current, equals 12.0 volts, a measure of electric potential. In animals, the primary purpose of carbohydrates is to A. Be converted into fat for later use as energy, B. Provide fuel for the body's cells and for the brain functions, C. Build muscle and support tissue repair, D. Facilitate the transportation of hormones and enzymes throughout the body. B. Provide fuel for the body's cells and for the brain functions. Where should a person sit on a merry-go-round to experience the greatest linear speed of the ride? A. Halfway between the axis and the outermost horse, B. 1/2 of the way between the axis and the outermost horse, C. On the outermost horse, D. On the innermost horse, E. On the highest horse. C. The rotational speed of all objects moving around an axis is the same. However, the linear speed of the object farthest away from the axis will be the greatest because they have a larger distance to cover in the same amount of time, compared with an object that is closest to the axis. On a merry-go-round, the innermost horse has the least distance to cover in a full rotation of the axis, so it will have the smallest linear speed. Therefore, choice D is incorrect. Horses anywhere in between the innermost and outermost horses will have linear speeds greater than that of the innermost horse but smaller than that of the outermost horse. Thus, choices A and B are incorrect. The height of the horse would not affect the linear speed, so choice E is incorrect. All living cells arise from A. Living matter, B. Dead or deceased matter, C. Inert matter, D. Enzymes. A. Living matter. Carbohydrates are composed of underscore 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 and underscore 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 underscore. A. Carbon, hydrogen, glucose, B. Carbides, hydrates, oxygen, C. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, D. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen. C. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. A chemical equation shows A, N, underscore 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 and must underscore 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 underscore. A. Increasing atomic number, balance, B. Chemical change, balance, C. Noble gas, progress to a nonmetal, D. Transition metal influx. B. Chemical change, balance. A substance that is readily absorbed through the walls of the stomach is A. A starch, B. Alcohol, C. An amino acid, D. Ascorbic acid. B. Alcohol. Alcohol does not have to be digested. The other substances are not broken down, nor are they ready for absorption, until they reach the small intestine. Of the following, the best conductor of heat is A. Asbestos, B. Copper, C. Brass, D. Glass. B. Copper. Of the metals listed, copper is the best conductor of heat. Asbestos and glass are poor conductors and are therefore used as insulators. Which of the following statements correctly refers to the process of photosynthesis? A. Light is necessary for the process to occur, B. Oxygen is necessary for the process to occur, C. Carbon dioxide is given off during this process, D. The process is carried on by all protozoa. A. Light is necessary for the process to occur. Light is needed by plants in order to carry on the process of photosynthesis, the manufacture of carbohydrates. During this process, green plants absorb carbon dioxide and give off oxygen. Protozoa are one-celled organisms. Climate is the A. Current weather conditions in a certain place, B. Forecast weather conditions in a certain place, C. The temperature of the air at a standstill, D. Average of the weather conditions in a certain place over time. D. Average of the weather conditions in a certain place over time. The underscore 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 is the basic structural and functional unit of virtually all life forms. A. Cell, B. Organelle, C. Nucleus, D. Chromosome. A. Cell. When evaporation and condensation take place at the same rate, this is A. Equilibrium, B. Stasis, C. Convection, D. Not possible. A. Equilibrium. If a piece of corundum weighs 4 ounces in the air but appears to weigh only 3 ounces when submerged in water, its specific gravity is A. 1/4 B. 1c. 3d. 4 d. 4. Specific gravity equals weight of substance in air/loss of weight of substance in water, in which case it went from 4 in the air to losing 1 to 3 in the water, so it's 4/1, which is just 4, which is answer D. 4. Diseases can be divided into two categories: A. Helpful and harmful; B. Lethal and semi-lethal; C. Viruses and germs; D. Infectious and non-infectious. D. Infectious and non-infectious. Which answer choice describes Newton's law of inertia? A. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. B. Velocity is equal to a change in position divided by the change in time. C. The force acting upon an object is equal to the object's mass multiplied by its acceleration. D. An object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless an outside force acts upon it. E. Momentum, the product of an object's mass and its velocity, describes the degree to which the object will continue moving along its current path. D. Inertia is the idea of doing nothing and remaining unchanged. Newton's law of inertia describes what happens to an object when it stands alone, without outside forces causing changes in its motion. Choice A describes Newton's third law and involves action of an object. Choice B describes kinematics and motion. Choice C describes Newton's second law and involves a force acting on an object. Choice E describes momentum, not inertia. Which principle of light occurs when a wave travels through a slit or around an obstacle? A. Refraction; B. Diffraction; C. Reflection; D. Greenhouse effect; E. Interference. B. Diffraction occurs when a wave travels through a slit or around an obstacle. The light bends and then causes a spread on the other side of the opening or obstacle. Refraction, choice A, occurs when a wave travels from one medium to another and it bends as it moves through the different densities. Reflection, choice C, occurs when a wave hits a medium that cannot pass through and is bounced back. The greenhouse effect, choice D, occurs when light from the sun cannot escape the Earth's atmosphere and bounces back and forth by reflection. Interference, choice E, occurs more generally with waves when an object affects the path of a wave or another wave interacts with that wave. The commonly accepted steps in the scientific method are observation, theory, and law of principle. A. Experiment. Conclusion. B. Hypothesis. Experiment. C. Apotheosis. Irrigation. D. Hypothesis. Clinical trials. B. Hypothesis. Experiment. Carry hereditary traits from parents to their offspring. A. Proteins. B. Genes. C. Mitochondria. D. Ribosomes. B. Genes. The half-life of radium is 1,620 years. What fraction of a radium sample will remain after 3,240 years? A. 1/16, B. 1/8, C. 1/4, D. 1/2. C. 1/4. The half-life of a radioactive element is the time it takes for 1/2 of a given mass of the element to change to something else. In 1,620 years, 1/2 of the sample radium disintegrates. In another 1,620 years, making a total of 3,240 years, 1/2 of the remaining radium disintegrates. This leaves 1/2 of the remaining 1/2 in the form of radium. 1/2 of 1/2 equals 1/4. The block of elements between groups 2 and 3 on the periodic table are known as A. Lanthanides, B. Actinides, C. Transition metals, D. Noble gases. C. Transition metals. Lanthanides and actinides, shown in the two separate rows beneath the main part of the periodic table, would fit into a group 3 and are also considered transition metals. However, the question asked about the entire block of elements between groups 2 and 3. The smallest planet in the solar system is and the largest body in the solar system is A. Pluto, the Sun. B. Mercury, Jupiter. C. Pluto, Jupiter. D. Mercury, the Sun. D. Mercury, the Sun. The Earth's axial tilt causes A. Tides. B. Day and night. C. The seasons. D. The rotation of the Earth. C. The seasons. Winds are directly caused by A. Differences in humidity. B. Differences in air pressure. C. Differences in wind speed. D. Differences in temperature. B. Differences in air pressure. To start a fire with the aid of the sun, one should use A. Concave lens, B. Flat mirror, C. Magnifying lens, D. Concave mirror, C. A magnifying lens. To start a fire with the aid of the sun, it is necessary to concentrate, or converge, the rays of sunlight to a focal point. This is done with a convex lens, which is also known as a magnifying glass. Which of the following types of clouds is typically found at lower atmospheric levels? A. Cirrus, B. Altostratus, C. Cirrostratus, D. Cumulus, D. Cumulus cirrus, 4,000 to 20,000 m, 13,000 to 66,000 feet, cirrostratus, 6,000 to 13,000 m, 20,000 to 43,000 feet, altostratus, 2,000 to 4,000 meters, 6,600 to 13,000 feet, cumulus, between 1,000 and 5,000 feet, stratus, between the surface and 2,000 feet. The Earth is part of a solar system that contains the Sun and A. 7 other planets, B. 8 other planets, C. 9 other planets, D. Moon only. A. 7 other planets. Life functions include nutrition, underscore 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 and underscore 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 underscore. A. Excretion, respiration, stasis, reproduction. B. Growth, digestion, circulation, mitosis. C. Mitosis, meiosis, synthesis, excretion. D. Circulation, respiration, growth, reproduction. D. Circulation, respiration, growth, reproduction. What chemical reaction is represented by the following equation? 2H2S 2H2 plus S2 A, composition. B. Decomposition. C. Replacement. D. Double replacement. B. Decomposition. Chemical reactions can be classified into 4 main types. In composition, direct combination, 2 or more elements or compounds combine to form a more complex substance. Decomposition, the reverse of composition, occurs when a complex compound breaks down into simpler compounds of basic elements. Replacement takes place when one substance in a compound is freed and another takes its place. Double, or ionic, replacement occurs when ions in a solution combine to form a new product, which then leaves the solution. An atom with the same number of protons but a different number of neutrons than other atoms of the same element is A, N, A, isotope of that element. B, precursor atom. C, mutation. D, derivative molecule. A, isotope of that element. How do catalysts work to increase the rate of a reaction? A, by decreasing the number of reactants. B, by lowering the activation energy required to drive the reaction forward. C, by increasing the temperature of the reaction environment. D, by decreasing the number of products that are formed. E, by increasing the concentration of reactants so more collisions occur. B, the activation energy is the amount of energy that is required for a reaction to move forward and change the reactants into products. Catalysts decrease the amount of energy that needs to be generated to drive the reaction to happen, so they lower the activation energy of the reaction. The number of reactants and products, choices A and D, remain the same in catalytic reactions, as do the concentration of reactants, so choice E is also incorrect. Although increasing temperature can increase the rate of a reaction, it is not how catalysts work, thus, choice C is incorrect. The positively charged particle in the nucleus of an atom is A, N, A, proton. B, isotope. C, neutron. D, electron. A proton. An atom contains several types of particles. Its central core, the nucleus, consists of positively charged particles, called protons, and uncharged particles called neutrons. Surrounding the nucleus and orbiting it are negatively charged particles called electrons. Isotopes are atoms that contain the same number of protons as other atoms of the same element but have different numbers of neutrons. Which kind of time does a sundial keep? A, legal. B, standard. C, solar. D, daylight savings. C, solar. A ringing bell, placed in a vacuum under a glass bell jar, will A, have the pitch of its sound raised. B, crack the thick glass of the bell jar. C, undergo no change. D, be inaudible. D, be inaudible. Sound cannot travel through a vacuum. A seesaw is an example of A, an inclined plane. B, the pulley principle. C, a wedge. D, a lever. D, a lever. What number on the pH scale indicates a neutral solution? A. 13b, 8c, 7d, 0e1. C. The pH scale goes from 0 to 14. A neutral solution falls right in the middle of the scale at 7. Choice A, a value of 13, indicates a strong base. Choice B, a value of 8, indicates a solution that is weakly basic. Choices D and E, 0 and 1, indicate strong acids. What is friction? A. It is the normal force of an object that is perpendicular to the surface. B. It is the force required to maintain the movement of an object. C. It is the force that opposes motion. D. It is the velocity of an object. E. It is the force required to stop a moving object. C. Friction is the force of an object that opposes motion when it interacts with another surface. Every surface has some amount of friction that resists motion. All objects have a perpendicular force that they exert on surfaces they touch. Choice A. But this is not defined as friction, it is called normal force. Friction specifically involves the resisting force when trying to move an object and does not involve the velocity of an object, therefore, choices B, D, and E are incorrect. What is the molar mass of a substance? A. The mass of 1 mole of the substance. B. The mass of 10 molecules of the substance. C. The number of protons in the substance. D. The number of atoms in the substance. E. The mass of 1 molecule of the substance. A. The molar mass of a substance is equivalent to the mass of 1 mole of the substance. It can be found on the periodic table for individual elements and is listed as the atomic mass unit. For example, the molar mass of carbon is 12.01 g/mol. 1 mole is equivalent to 6.02 x 1023 molecules of a substance, not only 1 molecule or 10 molecules, therefore, choices B and E are incorrect. The number of protons is the atomic number of an element, so choice C is incorrect. The number of atoms is unrelated to the molar mass, thus, choice D is incorrect. Geology is the study of the formation and composition of the Earth. Light travels at an approximate speed of A. 186,000 miles per hour, B. 186,000 miles per second, C. 186 million miles per hour, D. 18,600 miles per minute. B. 186,000 miles per second. The barometric pressure at a particular location directly depends on A. The air's temperature and humidity. B. Solar wind flares and local wind speed. C. Local wind speed and temperature. D. The air's humidity and the local prevailing wind speed. A. The air's temperature and humidity. Animal cells sometimes have flagella, which are thread-like structures that function in the and the movement of A. Movement of simple organisms, particles in more complex organisms. B. Movement of particles in simple organisms, more complex organisms. C. Division of gamete cells, food particles for simple organisms. D. Production of chlorophyll, fluid through the stem. A. Movement of simple organisms, particles in more complex organisms. Potential energy is due to and kinetic energy is A. The position of an object, the energy of motion. B. The object's acceleration, steady movement. C. The reaction between certain elements, velocity in a straight line. D. How much faster an object could theoretically go, speed plus rate of acceleration. A. The position of an object, the energy of motion. Which type of reaction is represented by the following equation, A plus B? C. A. Decomposition. B. Combustion. C. Enzymatic. D. Combination. E. Oxidation/reduction. D. The equation A plus B? C represents a combination reaction because two reactants are being combined to form one larger product. Decomposition reactions, choice A, are represented as C, B plus A, where one larger reactant is broken into two smaller products. Combustion reactions, choice B, always involve oxygen gas as a reactant. Although most reactions involve enzymes, this equation does not specify whether an enzyme is involved, so choice C is incorrect. Oxidation/reduction reactions involve the oxidation of one species and the reduction of the other species via the transfer of oxygen, hydrogen, or electrons. Therefore, choice E is incorrect. Mixture of one substance completely dissolved in another substance. A. Suspension. B. Compound. C. Solution. D. Transuranic. C. Solution. When a lever is balanced on its fulcrum, the force on one arm A is greater than the force on the other. B matches the force on the other. C is less than the force on the other. D depends on the placement of the fulcrum. B matches the force on the other. Which is a chemical property of water? A. It freezes. B. It evaporates. C. It condenses. D. It decomposes into gas. D. It decomposes into gas. When water disintegrates, it becomes molecules of hydrogen and oxygen. It no longer has the properties of water. An atom has a greater number of electrons than protons. B. A smaller number of electrons than protons. C. The same number of protons and electrons. D. The same number of protons and neutrons. C. The same number of protons and electrons. What type of reactions involve the breaking and reforming of bonds between atoms? A. Chemical. B. Physical. C. Isotonic. D. Electron. E. Nuclear. A. Chemical reactions are processes that involve the changing of one set of substances to a different set of substances. To accomplish this, the bonds between the atoms and the molecules of the original substances need to be broken. The atoms are rearranged, and new bonds are formed to make the new set of substances. Combination reactions involve two or more reactants becoming one product. Decomposition reactions involve one reactant becoming two or more products. Combustion reactions involve the use of oxygen as a reactant and generally include the burning of a substance. Choices C and D are not discussed as specific reaction types. Nuclear reactions, choice E, involve a change in the nucleus of the atom rather than a rearrangement of electrons. Matter is A. Anything that has a definite size and shape. B. Anything that occupies space and has mass. C. Anything that uses energy to change its state. D. Anything that has a definite volume. B. Anything that occupies space and has mass. Inertia is the property of matter to A. Resist a change of position or motion. B. Resist a change of volume or shape. C. Resist a change of composition. D. Interact or not interact with other substances. A. Resist a change of position or motion. If a vehicle increases speed from 20 mph to 40 mph over a time period of 20 seconds, what is the vehicle's rate of acceleration? A. 2 mph. B. 1 mph superscript 2 C. 10 mph. D. 10 mph superscript 2 E. 1 mph. B. The equation for calculating acceleration is, in this case, Vf equals 40 mph, 6 equals 20 mph, and t equals 20s. Plugging in the numbers gives an acceleration rate of 1 mph per second, which is written as 1 mph2, choice B. What is different between the isotopes of an atom? A. The number of protons. B. The number of orbitals. C. The number of neutrons. D. The location of the nucleus. E. The number of electrons. C. The total number of protons and neutrons in an atom is the atom's mass number. The number of protons in an atom is the atomic number. If an atom has a variation in the number of neutrons, the atom's mass number changes, but the atomic number remains the same. This variation creates isotopes of the atom with the same atomic number. The number of protons, choice A, is unique for each atom and does not change. The number of orbitals and location of the nucleus remain the same for atoms, therefore, choices B and D are incorrect. The number of electrons, choice E, affects the charge of the atom. The parts of a prokaryotic cell include the A. membrane, nucleus, and mitochondrion. B. membrane, nucleus, and neoplasm. C. DNA, cytoplasm, and ribosomes. D. endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, and organelles. C. DNA, cytoplasm, and ribosomes. Of the following, the one that yields the most energy per ounce as a result of normal metabolism is A. protein. B. sugar. C. starch. D. fat. D. Fat has the most carbon molecules in its composition of the substances listed and would therefore yield the most energy per ounce. To which organism is the whale most closely related? A. tuna. B. turtle. C. dinosaur. D. horse. D. horse. The whale and the horse are mammals. They have a four-chambered heart, mammary glands, and lungs. They bear live offspring, not eggs. The unit of length called angstrom, A. is useful for measuring _________________ and equals _________________________________________________________________________________________ A. radio waves, 10 to the power of 8 cmb, the wavelength of light, 10-8 cmc, the wavelength of light, 8 nanometers d, the distance between stars, 10 to the power of 8 m. b. The wavelength of light, 10-8 cm. Matter exists in one of three state or conditions underscore 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 or underscore 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 underscore. A. Element, compound, mixture. B. Solid, liquid, gas. C. Physical, chemical, molecular. D. Physical, inertial, chemical. B. Solid, liquid, gas. In humans, the endocrine system underscore 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 A includes glands that regulate growth and blood pressure. B. Bring oxygen to cells and removes waste from them. C. Allows humans to reproduce. D. Permits sensory communication between the organism and its environment. A. Includes glands that regulate growth and blood pressure. A chemical change is always accompanied by a physical change. B. The expenditure of energy. C. The release or absorption of energy. D. The appearance of the substance. C. The release or absorption of energy. About 50% of the Earth's outer layer, including the seas, oceans, and atmosphere, is made of A. Hydrogen. B. Oxygen. C. Noble gas. D. Carbon. B. Oxygen. If a person lifts a 50 pounds package to the top of a 25-foot ladder, how many foot-pounds of work are performed? A. 75 foot-pounds. B. 500 foot-pounds. C. 1,000 foot-pounds. D. 1,250 foot-pounds. D. 1,250 foot-pounds. The scientific measure of work is the foot-pound, which is the force of 1 pound acting through a distance of 1 foot. To measure work in a specific task, multiply the force in pounds by the distance in feet. FXD equals W. 50 times 25 is equal to 1,250 foot-pounds of work. The atomic number of the element carbon is A. 6B. 12.001 C. 17D. 20. A6. What is the correct formula for dry ice? A. Ho2BH2O2C, Co-D, Co2. D. Co2. Dry ice is solid carbon dioxide, Co2, made by cooling this gas to minus 80 degrees Celsius. In this case, Co2 goes directly from a gaseous state to a solid. The periodic table is used to present all the elements in a way that A. shows their similarities and differences. B. shows their similarities only. C. shows their differences only. D. aligns elements in order of decreasing atomic number. A. shows their similarities and differences. When a candle burns, the most prevalent products are A. carbon monoxide and nitrogen. B. carbon dioxide and nitrogen. C. carbon monoxide and water. D. carbon dioxide and water. D. carbon dioxide and water. The paraffin in the candle contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The products obtained when the candle burns are, therefore, the oxides of carbon and hydrogen. Vertebrates are animals whose primary defining characteristics is that they underscore A. have no spine or backbone. B. have a spine and backbone. C. walk vertically, upright. D. have an enclosed circulatory system. B. have a spine and backbone. In the periodic table, what similarity do the elements in columns have with each other? A. They have the same atomic number. B. They have similar chemical properties. C. They have similar electron valence configurations. D. They start with the same first letter. E. They have the same density. B. The elements are arranged such that the elements in columns have similar chemical properties, such as appearance and reactivity. Each element has a unique atomic number, not the same one, so choice A is incorrect. Elements are arranged in rows, not columns, with similar electron valence configurations, so choice C is incorrect. The names of the elements are not arranged alphabetically in columns, so choice D is incorrect. Density is a physical property, not a chemical one, so elements in columns do not necessarily have the same density. Furthermore, the density of an element depends on the state it is in. The beam of parallel rays of light is reflected from a plane, flat, mirror. After reflection, the rays will be A. absorbed. B. converged. C. diffused. D. parallel. D. Parallel in a beam of parallel rays, each ray strikes the mirror at a different point. Since the mirror has a plane surface, the rays are all parallel after reflection. A cylinder with a narrow inclined plane wrapped around it is a description of A screw. B. A double inclined plane. C. A pivot point. D. A wheel and axis. A screw. The relative humidity of the air when dew forms is A. 100%. B. 75%. C. 50%. D. 25%. A. 100%. The dew point is the condition when the air becomes saturated with moisture. Which of the following is an example of a physical property of substances? A. Heat of combustion. B. Reactivity. C. Odor. D. Toxicity. E. Flammability. C. Physical properties of substances are those that can be observed without changing that substance's chemical composition, such as odor, color, density, and hardness. Heat of combustion, reactivity, flammability, and toxicity are all chemical properties of substances. They describe the way in which a substance may change into a different substance. They cannot be observed without changing the identity of the substance. The number of underscore 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 in an atom's nucleus determines the element's atomic number. A. Protons. B. Neutrons. C. Electrons. D. Positrons. A. Protons. The rotation of the Earth on its axis causes A. Tides. B. Day and night. C. The seasons. D. Axial tilt. B. Day and night. Which type of matter has molecules that cannot move within the substance and breaks evenly across a plane due to the symmetry of its molecular arrangement? A. Gases. B. Elements. C. Liquids. D. Amorphous solids. E. Crystalline solids. E. Solids have molecules that are packed together tightly and cannot move within their substance. Crystalline solids have atoms or molecules that are arranged symmetrically, making all of the bonds of even strength. When they are broken, they break along a plane of molecules, creating a straight edge. Amorphous solids do not have the symmetrical makeup of crystalline solids. They do not break evenly. Gases and liquids both have molecules that move around freely. Elements are not a distinct phase of matter, they are substances formed by only a single type of atom. The light year is used to measure A. Intensity of light. B. Distance. C. Time elapsed. D. Brightness. B. Distance. Light travels at 186,282 miles per second, which equals 5,874,588,800,000 or almost 5.9 trillion miles. A pulley is used to move heavy objects in A underscore 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 direction. A. Horizontal. B. Vertical. C. Sideways. D. Tangential. B. Vertical. The atomic mass of potassium is A. 30.97376. B. 39.098. C. 195.08. D. 244. B. 39.098. Potassium, K. Mass at the bottom of the letter. The law of independent assortment, as postulated by Gregor Mendel, says that underscore 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 A, when contrasting traits are independently crossed, one trait is dominant over the other. B. Each trait is inherited independently of all other traits. C. Individually independent heredity traits, or units, separate in the gametes. D. The distribution of dominant genes is independent of parental gametes. B. Each trait is inherited independently of all other traits. The four types of chemical reactions are A. Combination, sublimation, single replacement, and double replacement. B. Combination, decomposition, single replacement, and double replacement. C. Catalyzation, decomposition, single replacement, and equilibrium. D. Catalyzation, sublimation, double replacement, and saturation. B. Combination, decomposition, single replacement, and double replacement. What torque would result from a 35 N force that was applied to a lever 10 meters away from the axis of rotation? A. 35 Nm. B. 0.35 Nm. C. 10 Nm. D. 3.5 Nm. E. 350 Nm. E. The equation to determine torque is torque equals Fx distance of lever arm from the axis of rotation, where is the perpendicular force that is being applied to the object. Thus, torque equals 35 N 10 M equals 350 Nm. Aeration of water will produce A loss of oxygen. B, a loss of methane. C, a gain of carbon dioxide. D, a gain of carbon dioxide and a loss of oxygen. B, a loss of methane. During aeration of water, methane and carbon dioxide are liberated, eliminated, from the water, and oxygen is absorbed from the air. A doorknob is an example of a pulley. B, a wheel and axle. C, a screw. D, a cylindrical effort arm. B, a wheel and axle. On the basis of their atomic structure, atoms are considered if they lend electrons and if they borrow electrons. A, inert, nonmetals. B, metals, inert. C, nonmetals, metals. D, metals, nonmetals. D, metals, nonmetals. For what entity does kinematics provide a guideline? A, motion. B, time. C, mass. D, position. E, force. A, kinematics provides a guideline for describing motion. The equations describe the change in an object's position, choice D, as a function of time, choice B, mass, choice C, does not play a role in kinematics. Kinetics, not kinematics, involves forces, therefore, choice E is incorrect. Metal oxides react with water to form and non-metal oxides react with water to form A, bases, acids. B, acids, bases. C, carbonates, sodium hydroxide. D, dilute solutions, concentrated solutions. A, bases, acids. A boulder perched precariously at the edge of a long, steep downslope on a mountainside is said to have A, potential energy. B, kinetic energy. C, conserved energy. D, mechanical energy. A, potential energy.